Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode review and breakdown for Stargirl Season 2. Today we're talking Episode 9, and this was just such a pivotal episode. You can tell how huge this episode is going to be going forward in this season, just when it comes to setting up stuff, because there was a whole bunch of things that went on here that was just absolutely insane. I was already super excited for this episode, knowing that we were going to be getting some JSA flashbacks with John Wesley Shipp as Jay Garrick the Flash, knowing we were going to be getting some Icicle stuff and all that. So it was great. There was a lot of stuff I wasn't expecting. So of course, spoiler warning, if you've not yet seen this episode, again, Stargirl Season 2, Episode 9, aka Summer School, Chapter 9, even though we haven't really actually spent much time in summer school, but you know, every episode is summer school, chapter, whatever. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. So we start off the episode as we usually do with a flashback to decades ago, where we have Bruce Gordon, the original Bruce Gordon, the original person who found and discovered the Black Diamond in Eclipso. He gets consumed by Eclipso, and you have this whole scene where I think it was like there's this girl he's in love with, but you know, she has a husband, so Eclipso was like, you know, if you let me take over, then I can get rid of him, and then you can be with her. And it's like really messed up. Anyway, it ends up happening, and then we therefore get the first official host of Eclipso in this universe. And of course, this scene ties into later stuff going on in this episode, specifically with Pat. So when we start off this episode with Pat, he and Mike and Courtney are just preparing to kind of like shelter in place at their home due to the crazy wild weather and the storm that's going on outside. And we get a bunch of great flashbacks with Pat in this episode, which I absolutely love. Definitely my favorite part. And, you know, they're in little pieces throughout, but we'll talk about it mostly in big chunks here. Like, for example, first of all, he sees a flower that reminds him of the funeral of Rebecca McNider. So he gets flashbacks to Rebecca McNider's funeral. She's, of course, the daughter of Dr. Midnight. We saw her die by the hands of Eclipso in the first episode of the season. So now we open up on her funeral, where we've got a bunch of the JSA members there, and they're all just talking about, like, they got to take down Eclipso because, again, this is Eclipso's fault, and Dr. McNider's just dealing with this not the greatest, and his wife is even worse. So they need to do something. They need to strike back against Eclipso. But the problem with that is that they don't know how to do that. They don't know much at all about Eclipso until Sylvester actually, we get this nice little conversation between Sylvester Pemberton, aka Starman, and Pat, and then all of a sudden they see the Shade off in the distance. So we get Sylvester actually going off and talking to the Shade, and of course, throughout this whole episode in these flashbacks, literally all the JSA members are like, Stripesy, no, you're not a member of the JSA, so, I mean, this is JSA business, like, you stay there. It's like, oh, well, that's kind of rude. I mean, I think he's actually older than Sylvester anyway, so whatever. But yeah, so he goes off and he talks to the Shade, and later when Pat is working in the JSA garage, Sylvester comes down there and tells him what the Shade told him about Eclipso. So the only way to stop Eclipso, or at least according to the Shade at this point in time, is to kill the host. So this, of course, sets us off on this whole crazy thing throughout this episode in these flashbacks of the JSA basically arguing and contemplating, should they or should they not kill Bruce Gordon to protect their families? And we'll talk about that more later. But first of all, let's catch up with Mike and Icicle and all this stuff that's going on here. Because again, there's this crazy storm going on outside, so all of a sudden Cameron shows up at the door. Mike answers it, and he lets him inside because it's like, oh, it's a bad storm out there, I'm not just going to let you stand out there. So he lets Cameron in, and they start talking. You can tell right from the get-go here that things are very, very suspicious with Cameron, and after a little bit of time here, he reveals that he knows that Mike killed his father, that he ran him over with a truck. Apparently a friend told him. We never find out who his friend was, but a friend told him about that. And now he says, like, well, since you killed my father, that means I get to kill your father. And Cameron just gets really, really dark and really, really evil really, really fast here. Like, he kills Max, of course, the dog. He kills the dog. Oh, that was such a dark moment where Max comes around the corner, sees Cameron, and is like ready to attack and, you know, protect Mike and everything. And then I'm so glad they did it off screen, but he no, that was so sad. But Cameron says that his father, of course, the original Icicle, Jordan McKen, is alive. He never died, and he's actually dealing with Barbara right now. So we see that Barbara has gotten trapped in the storm, and she's just on the side of the road in her car, and all of a sudden, Icicle appears in the back of her car, again, Jordan McKen. And this was so cool to see the return of Icicle. I really enjoyed it, even though it was very brief. We did find out, of course, that it was not actually Icicle. It was just Eclipso doing his stuff again, just like we saw in the past couple episodes with Eclipso bringing back Brainwave and Solomon Grundy and doing all that stuff. Well, it did the same thing here with Icicle for Barbara. And I was a little disappointed by this because, I've been having some big theories since the first season when Eclipso supposedly died that oh man, I just did it again. Icicle, not Eclipso. When Icicle died, that Icicle was actually somehow alive, and I've been having some big theories about that, but this kind of just proves that, it's not happening. Because the Shade is talking to Barbara here in this scene, and he convinces her that this is not real, so then she's able to escape. And then we get the same reveal here with Mike, that everything going on with Cameron is not actually happening, because Courtney shows up, sees that he's just on the ground strangling himself, and then uses the cosmic staff to basically cure him of Eclipso's spell here, which was another thing I was a little disappointed by, that all of that was just fake, because that's something that's kind of been set up a little bit here with Cameron in this season, is that he's starting to develop his powers. We've had a couple cliffhangers with that so far, and a couple teases, and all that good stuff. And I just really want to see him go down a dark path. I want to see him get the reveal that Stargirl and Courtney are the same person, and they're responsible, along with Mike and the JSA, for his father's death and all that stuff. And I want to see him go down a dark path. So I was already a little suspicious when they started off just with all that stuff already happened. So when it was revealed that it was all Eclipso, I wasn't surprised. But again, I was also disappointed because I did really like seeing evil Cameron here. He was actually really evil and really mean, and I actually really liked it. But I suppose the good thing coming out of this is that Max is alive, so don't worry, the dog did die, but that was just part of Eclipso's trance vision thing. So Max is alive. That's definitely some good news. But I am still wondering where we're going to go with Cameron in the season, because we just have 4 more episodes left after this in the season. So I am wondering if they're going to be able to do that and tie up that story, or if it's more so just setting up for something bigger in season 3. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But meanwhile, we catch back up with Pat in his JSA flashbacks, where we get this crazy scene of the JSA arguing whether they should kill the host or not. And they're literally voting. So it ends up being 2-2. Pat and J. Garrick Flash vote no, we should not kill Bruce Gordon. And then Wildcat and Hourman decide, yes, we should kill Bruce Gordon because, all of them have had threats to their families and they don't want their kids to end up like Rebecca McNider. So then Joel McHale's Sylvester Pemberton, aka Starman, is the deciding vote. He's the tiebreaker here. And he decides yes. He says, yes, we need to kill Bruce Gordon. And this was just such a crazy, shocking moment because, to be fair, we haven't really gotten to know Starman that much, but we didn't think he would be the kind of guy that would make this decision, but he did, and even Pat was super duper surprised by this, and was like, Sylvester, how could you do this? But then all of a sudden, Pat does wake up from his flashbacks, and now all of a sudden he's in present day again, but then Bruce Gordon is there shooting at him, and then of course Courtney is able to break him free, but then he's kind of forced to tell her the truth about the real way that the JSA originally stopped Eclipso, and that was that Starman killed Bruce Gordon. Then after this, apparently the JSA disbanded for a couple of years, and the only reason they came back together was because the ISA came back, and that's why the ISA was able to defeat them all, because the JSA were never the same after that, because they killed a man, and that just changes them. But now Courtney is super duper upset by this, and honestly, I don't get why she is. Obviously she's upset that, Pat lied to her and everything, but, that's a big thing that, I understand where Pat was coming from. But anyway, she gets really mad, Barbara gets home, and then we get all 4 members of the family up in the kitchen. They're just arguing. We get this big family fight, and then you see outside the window watching in is little Bruce Gordon, aka Eclipso, watching in, doing that creepy little laugh. and basically he won. This was his big goal in this episode, was to distract all of the family members and turn them against each other. It's the same thing we've been seeing in the last couple episodes, with Yolanda deciding to quit the JSA, with Rick getting arrested, almost killing his uncle, and now the Whitmore Dugan family getting into this huge fight and turning against each other. Eclipso is basically won at this point, and now he is just going to be able to become even more and more powerful. But that gets me really, really excited. Again, there's only 4 episodes left of the season. I'm so excited to see where things go. Next week, we're getting the return of Jenny, aka Jade, Alan Scott, Green Lantern's daughter. I mean, that's another thing I've been wondering about, because she was introduced back in, I think it was episode 2, and we haven't seen her since then. So I've been wondering, like, are they going to bring her back? And they are in next week's episode. Same thing I'm wondering about with Jakeem Thunder and the Thunderbolt pen, because that was, I think that was episode 3 or maybe episode 4, where we had the Thunderbolt pen with Mike, and then at the end of the episode, you had the cliffhanger of Alcoya Brunson playing Jakeem Thunder, getting the Thunderbolt pen. So I'm really excited to see those 2 characters come back in the fold here. It's going to be really interesting to see how they explain it, but I'm definitely hyped, and this was a great episode. Again, just a fun episode, because there were so many crazy things going on here that, you know, some of them I wish they actually happened, but it was still cool to see this evil side of Cameron, and again, hopefully we get to see that, like, actually happen in the future, and I just love the JSA flashbacks. But anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about Stargirl Season 2, Episode 9? Let me know all your thoughts, theories, and predictions for the rest of Stargirl Season 2 in the comments below, and thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.